Boys, girls, babes, welcome back to the Jenaya Talks Caps podcast, and welcome to our first post-season episode of this 2024-2025 season, getting you ready here today for the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are set to begin for our very own Washington Capitals on Monday evening. In case you missed it, it will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time here in my town of Vancouver, beautiful British Columbia, Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Game 1 of Round 1 against the Montreal Canadiens is set to get underway for our Washington Capitals. And babes, I would like to invite you, if you haven't already done so, to please go ahead and subscribe to our podcast if you like what you hear here on the show, as we will have coverage all throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs of our Washington Capitals, and we would obviously love to have you along here with us for this ride. What will hopefully be a very long ride, we can hope, for our Washington Capitals in the Stanley Cup playoffs this season. And today, folks, this is an episode, I've got to tell you, this is an episode that I have been excited to make. This is a conversation that I have been very excited to have with you all, previewing the Caps' upcoming first round series against the Montreal Canadiens, as I am like all of you, right? I just cannot wait to get this thing going here, get these playoffs underway for our Washington Capitals. And so it is a topic, frankly, that I'm very excited to discuss today. A great matchup between our number one seed Washington Capitals and one of the most storied franchises in the entire NHL in the Montreal Canadiens. And now, the Caps, right? This is a totally different feeling than we had going into the playoffs last season, of course. Role reversal, right? Last season, our Washington Capitals, they were the last team to make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs on the last day of the regular season. Game number 82, they needed to win to get in, and they did so, right? So they were the last team to make it, the last wild card in, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the entire National Hockey League. This season, that is not the case, obviously, right? They are the number one seed in the entire Eastern Conference. They are the number two seed in the entire National Hockey League, behind only the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. And if I can just say so, thank goodness that we did not win the President's Trophy, Winnipeg. You can have it, man. But yeah, the Caps, as the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, you would think that they would be the clear favorites in this series, right? Well, according to the betting odds, they absolutely are the clear favorites, according to the betting odds. But then you also have all of these absolute heroes in the Canadian media, right? Who are just absolutely tripping over themselves, wanting to make sure that they get in their soundbite of predicting, use quotation marks for that, predicting that the Caps get upset by the Habs. And mind you, these are the same quote-unquote experts, again, quotation marks, experts, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, experts, I am using that term very loosely and surrounding it, yes, with quotation marks, but these are the very same experts who predicted, nay, guaranteed they did, that our Caps would be a bottom 5 team in the National Hockey League this season. And so now they are all putting all 12 of their brain cells together to come up with the Caps as a surefire upset, according to them. Riveting stuff, as always, by the Canadian hockey media. And by the way, that is the Canadian media that I'm referring to, Canadian IAN, okay, as in the country as a whole, the Canadian hockey media, not the Montreal Canadiens, IEN, not the Montreal Canadiens media specifically, okay? And by the way, this is not me, when I'm talking about, it being ridiculous that all of the media in this country is predicting, guaranteeing, whatever you want to call it, an upset of the Washington Capitals in the first round. This is not me denigrating the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, I just want to make that perfectly clear. They are a very good hockey team. I totally have respect for them as a hockey team. This is just me stating a simple fact that the Canadian hockey media is so far up their own ass that they can't see the sunlight anymore. And as a matter of fact, I know that most Montreal Canadiens fans would probably agree with me on that too, because they are in the same boat, quite frankly. Like, there's another team, right, that has been just massively disrespected by the media in this country. And I know the Habs were picked by many of them to finish bottom 5 in the NHL this season too. So we have that in common. Our Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens do, both of them picked by pretty much everyone in the hockey media in this country to finish bottom 5 in the NHL standings this season. And now here they are, both of them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Capitals, like I said, is the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and the Montreal Canadiens as one of the 2 wild card teams in the East. And by the way, nothing wrong with being a wild card team. You make it in, right? Like, you're in. It doesn't matter. So, like I said, huge respect I have for the Montreal Canadiens and their up-and-coming team. So none of this, I'm not saying any of it, like I said, to denigrate the Montreal Canadiens as a team. I think they are a very good club. But yeah, this is strictly just aimed at the mainstream media in this country. I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm sick of listening to it, okay? Frankly, like, it's been on TV all day, every day up here nonstop. The Habs are going to beat the Caps. The Habs are going to beat the Caps. Pretty much guaranteeing it, like I said. So, and by the way, like, both of these fan bases, the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens, both of these fan bases know better than the mainstream media what their teams are, right? Who their teams are. And it is 2 good teams, like I said, who are going to be going at it in this series. And I certainly do not take the Montreal Canadiens lightly, rather. They are a franchise that, it seems, whenever they do get into the playoffs, they always seem to do damage once they get there. There's like a palpable magic about that franchise for sure. And so I certainly don't take them lightly at all. But you know what? This is a Washington Capitals podcast. And so, from a Washington Capitals perspective, like, all of that being said about the Montreal Canadiens, what they've done this season, the growth that they've had, all of that, very similar to the Washington Capitals last season, actually. It's admirable making the playoffs when you're predicted by everyone to be at the bottom of the standings, obviously. But all of that being said, all of that love and praise and admiration that I'm heaping onto that team over there in Montreal, the Washington Capitals, they are, at least on paper, right, the better team, the deeper team, and so certainly there should be areas that the Caps can exploit and take advantage of in this series. And so we are going to break down a lot of that for you here today, looking at all areas of the ice for each of these 2 teams. And yeah, just breaking it down, right? Like, I could not be more excited to get going here. I have been waiting, like I said, to do this podcast. I had to wait a few extra days, obviously, because we did not know right up until the end of the regular season who it was that we were going to be playing against in round number 1. But yeah, I just could not be more excited to get going here and to be doing this show here with all of you. So let's get started, babes. And now, I wanted to start with the projected lineups for each of these 2 clubs. And the Caps, you will remember, they do have a few very key injuries that they're dealing with currently. Those being to number 1 goaltender Logan Thompson, top line forward and one of the very best 5-on-5 players in the entire National Hockey League, Aliaksei Protas, and now, unfortunately, we can add another guy to that list as well. As top 4 defenseman Martin Fehervary, he also appears to be sidelined with an injury sustained late in the regular season. An apparent ankle or foot injury for Marty Fehervary. And now, the injury status updates on these guys. Current as of now, okay, like at the time of me recording this episode, which is late Saturday night, April 19th. That's right, I'm working on a Saturday night for you guys. The current status updates for injuries for these guys are as such. Logan Thompson, he did skate again today. He has been skating for a few days now. But today, the difference was that he also did practice fully with the rest of his teammates as well, which marks another milestone for him in his recovery from an upper body injury. Today was the first time that he has joined his teammates for a full practice since sustaining the injury on April 2nd. So that is certainly a positive sign for his availability moving forward. Aliaksei Protas, on the other hand, still has not been able to skate since sustaining that skate cut to his left foot on April 4th against the Chicago Blackhawks. Head coach Spencer Carberry says that he is progressing, but then we were also told by ESPN about a week ago that Protas was originally projected to start skating on Monday, as in last Monday, like the Monday that's almost a full week behind us now. And then that Monday date got bumped by Spencer Carberry to, quote, middle of this week. And then that got pushed back again to, quote, hopefully sometime this week. And well, now, like, this week is gone, right? And Protas still hasn't been on the ice. So while I obviously wouldn't say that those are positive developments by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, I also think that, like, with an injury like a foot laceration, it is also a scenario where we could see him stepping out onto the ice to skate one day, and then boom, he could even be in the lineup like that very same night if the cut on his foot holds up with skating on it for the first time, right? So, and he was out of the walking boot when I saw him last as well. I should mention that as well, because that was a big development. Like, there was some footage of him in the locker room with the rest of his teammates recently, like within the last few days. And yeah, he was not wearing the walking boot anymore. He was just wearing a simple wrap on his foot, and he appeared to be standing on it just fine. No crutches or anything like that for support. So, we will see. Obviously, like, we would have hoped that, he would have been on the ice already by this point. I think maybe that cut is taking a little bit longer to heal than the team originally anticipated. But I do think, like I said, that once we do see him out there on the ice for a skate, that it won't be very much longer at all after that until we hear that he's back in the lineup for game action. And then Martin Fehervary, there's really not much word on him at this point, with Carberry and the team just basically stating that he wouldn't skate today at, what was the Caps' first official postseason practice. But like I said, he did appear to twist and tweak his ankle a bit in that second to last game of the regular season, the one that the Caps played against the Islanders in New York. Now, that incident happened during the first period, and he did return for the rest of the game, and he did finish that game. So hopefully nothing too serious for Marty Fehervary, but if I had to guess, he finished that game against the Islanders, gutted it out. And then probably as soon as he took his skate boot off after that game, his ankle probably swelled right up like me if I eat a peanut, right? So again, like, this is just my educated guess, but if I had to guess, I would venture to say that he probably cannot get his skate boot on right now, and that is probably why he has not been on the ice. John Carlson, Matt Roy, and Jacob Chychrun all back on the ice for the Capitals' first postseason practice, by the way. So that is obviously very positive news, a welcome sight there. All of those guys we know have been banged up. But, positive news at least that they're out there on the ice, able to skate. But yeah, they've got some getting healthy to do, right? That's for sure. The Caps more than a little banged up right now. Not exactly what you want, obviously, right before the Stanley Cup playoffs are set to begin for you. So, with all of those injuries for the Caps, their projected lineup for Game 1 based off of line rushes at their first official postseason practice, like I said, these were what the line combinations were. So, we have got Dylan Strome, Centering his usual left winger, Alex Ovechkin. And then in the absence of Aliaksei Protas, it was again Anthony Beauvillier who got the call to be the right winger on that line at today's practice. And, he has looked very good there in the few games that he's now played up there on that line. That line creating a ton of scoring chances for themselves during those last few games of the regular season. But yeah, Beauvillier, he's definitely going to have to start finishing on those wide open nets that Ovechkin and Stromer have been giving to him. It's all well and good and fine if you miss those at the end of the regular season when the team has already clinched everything that they can possibly clinch. But it is going to be another thing entirely if you were missing those wide open looks during a playoff game. I will not be quite as calm about it in that scenario. So he has got to start burying those ones for sure. But in general, that line had looked very good, tilting the ice for the Caps to end the regular season. Second line, we have got a much more familiar trio of Pierre-Luc Dubois centering Tom Wilson on the right wing and Connor McMichael on the left wing. That line has been phenomenal together all season. Whenever they have played together. So look for Spencer Carbery to use them as one of his go-to shutdown lines in the head-to-head matchups on home ice. Third line, we have got Lars Eller centering Andrew Mangiapane on the left wing and the rookie Ryan Leonard on the right wing. That line has been much, much better since Ryan Leonard joined it, since he joined the Caps on his entry-level deal. So that is a positive for sure. And then fourth line for the Caps, it is the old reliable, best fourth line center in the entire National Hockey League in Nick Dowd. He centers a line with the Energizer Bunny, Brandon Duhaime on the left wing, Taylor Radish on the right wing. And that line as well, they have been phenomenal all season long whenever Spencer Carbery has used them together, able to tilt the ice in favor of their Caps, even when matched up against the opposition's top lines. And then, I'm just blasting through this here. But then on defense, obviously some shakeup here with Martin Fehervary not able to practice. So we have got, and this looks a little different than what we have been seeing recently, but we have got Jacob Chychrun skating on a pairing with John Carlson. So that pairing has got a whole lot of offense to it. That is a major tilt the ice pairing for the Caps. We've seen that anytime that they have used those two together this season. Big time tilt the ice pairing, that's for sure. So, and that's very interesting to me that Spencer Carbery has opted to put those two together potentially for game one, with the home ice advantage. With having last change on home ice, I could see him using that pairing along with one of the top two forward lines to really target some of the Montreal Canadiens' weaker defenders. And then, again, in the absence of Martin Fehervary, at least for now, Carbery has opted on the second pairing, if you want to call it that. Really, their top four is their top four. All of these pairings are so good. But yeah, Carbery has opted to put Rasmus Sandin for now with Matt Roy. So, that is definitely your shutdown pairing, right? Two very good defensive defensemen there. And again, I think the having home ice for these first two games is definitely influencing Carbery's lineup here, as with the last change, like I said, he can do what he wants, right? He can deploy that shutdown pairing every time the Montreal Canadiens send out their top forward trio. And then rounding out the group of six on defense, we have got a pairing of Alex Alexeyev with Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Alex Alexeyev, in my opinion, a very capable replacement on the left side for the injured Martin Fehervary. Obviously, we will miss Marty a ton for however long he is out, but Alexeyev, like I said, he is no slouch either. And we actually saw last season in the playoffs against the Rangers that he is a very capable defender, right? Very capable of coming into the lineup and giving you good, solid minutes. And then in net, like I said, it's still up in the air here, right? Logan Thompson was, like I said, a full participant in practice today for the first time since suffering his upper body injury. but no word yet on if he might be able to start game one for the Caps in this series. But like certainly him being out there was a good sign, right? A huge step forward in a very positive direction for sure. And then Charlie Lindgren, obviously, had the other net at practice today, with the beat reporters in attendance reporting that Thompson and Lindgren were both basically taking one net each, and then Hershey Bears call-up Clay Stevenson was just rotating in. And so those are your lines as of now for the Caps ahead of game one. And obviously, you know, things could change over the next couple of days here in the lead up to that game one. But that is where things stand as of right now. And, you know, I'm going to do the Montreal Canadiens side of things here. I need to take a drink of water. I don't have a co-host, if you guys have noticed, so I could pause it right now, but I think, like, we're all friends here, right? It's actually very hard to talk for like 45 minutes, an hour straight, however long we go here. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys allowing me to be so unprofessional. But yeah, I don't feel like editing this one. I just want to do this one like in a straight shot, all in one take. So just chug the water right during the live broadcast. That's fine. Like I said, it's a Saturday night, right? I don't feel like editing this as well. So we're just doing a one taker here. But yeah, on the Montreal Canadiens side, like their line combinations are as follows. So let me just make sure I've got their current ones here. Yep, here we go, April 19th. So Nick Suzuki centers their top line with Cole Caulfield on the left and Juraj Slafkovsky on the right. That, if I'm not mistaken, has been their top line pretty much all season long. Alex Newhook is centering their second line with Patrick Laine on the left and rookie Ivan Demidov on the right. He, of course, just getting to North America from Russia. Habs fans obviously very excited about that. And then Christian Dvorak centers their third line with Josh Anderson on the left and Brendan Gallagher on the right. And then just making sure I have this right here. Oh yeah, here we go. They don't have very many injuries. The Montreal Canadiens don't. So then their fourth line is centered by Jake Evans with Emil Heineman on the left and I was going to say Joel. It's Yoel, right? Yoel Armia on the right. Habs fans, if you're listening, tell me if I got that correct. Yoel Armia. And on defense, their top pairing currently is Mike Matheson and Alexander Carrier. Second pairing, Caden Gooley and rookie sensation Lane Hutson, who obviously is the older brother of Caps prospect Cole Hutson. I bet you Cole will undoubtedly be tuned in for this series. His obviously team that drafted him, playing against his brother. That should be very exciting for him. And then the third pairing for the Canadiens is Jaden Struble and an aging David Savard, who has already announced that he will retire at the end of this season. David Savard, that is. And then in net, you have got Samuel Montembeau. Sorry about that. It's late, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, he is their number one netminder. And then Jakub Dobish, hope I'm saying that correctly, backing him up. I've seen that kid play a couple of games. He's quite good, actually. So that is the Montreal Canadiens lineup. And yeah, I mean, I don't mean this as a slight in any way to the Montreal Canadiens. Like I said, I certainly have respect for them. Again, like I said, and what they've done in making the playoffs this season, right? And they do have some nice pieces, particularly their top line. The kid, obviously, Ivan Demidov, and obviously we all know how good Lane Hutson has been for them on the back end. He is probably going to win the Calder Trophy this season, and he will deserve it. But Washington Capitals perspective, right? If you are the Washington Capitals, this is a team that you should beat, right? In the Montreal Canadiens. Like, at least on paper, this is a team that you absolutely should beat. And so what are some of the areas that the Caps can possibly expose against the Montreal Canadiens? Well, I think an obvious one to start with would be their defense, right? Like, it is rather undersized, or at least certainly like in relation to the Caps forwards, it is very undersized. So hammer them, right? Like, get in on the forecheck, pressure them, hit them, make their lives miserable. I would look specifically for the Caps to be targeting Lane Hutson. Sorry, Cole. But yeah, I would look for the Caps to be targeting Lane Hutson for sure, who is only 5'9" and 162 pounds, if you can believe that. So very, very, very good chance that he has a very, very, very bad time physically against these big forwards of the Washington Capitals. And then there's also like a lot of inexperience back there, at least playoff-wise for the Habs, right? And so I think if you're a big, heavy, hard-hitting, heavy pressure, hard forechecking team like the Washington Capitals are, that can definitely play into your hands a little bit, with forcing the young and light defenders on the Montreal Canadiens into making some mistakes with the puck. So you have to do that, right? Like, this series to me largely is going to come down to what the Caps do on the forecheck. So I'll get into that a little bit more, but to me, that honestly, truly is the biggest key of the series, is what the Washington Capitals do on the forecheck. Do they play like we know that they can in terms of the forecheck, or are they more passive? That I do not want. I want them to be aggressive. I want them to get in there. Like I said, hammer them. And secondly, especially on home ice with the last change, I think that the Caps have definitely got to target and take advantage of that second line for the Canadiens. It is very small up the middle with Alex Newhook. You can push them around, and obviously none of those three guys are very good defensively. So, I really think it's a line that if you're the Caps, like, you have to target it and target it hard. And yeah, I mean, X factors for this series, if you want, if you want me to name some, I think for the Montreal Canadiens, like, their X factors are fairly obvious, right? Like, Samuel Montembeault in their net is probably going to have to be their best player in the series if they want to win the series. And in addition, again, I think it's fairly obvious, but I think the rookie, Ivan Demidov, could be an X factor in the series for them as well. I don't think I'm, saying anything groundbreaking by saying that, but, he's a guy who's very talented, who they did not have all year, right? And so they are a better team now because they have him. And so that said, right, like, I don't want to like, I don't know even what the word is. I don't want to scare Caps fans about Demidov. He is a very talented kid, but, like, we'll see how he adjusts to NHL playoff hockey, right? Playoff hockey. And not KHL playoff hockey, like I said, NHL playoff hockey, because I know Habs fans are, like, super excited about this guy, and rightfully so. Like, he will most likely go on to be a phenomenal player in this league for a very long time. So you guys should be excited to have him. But in terms of this series, I do think that they might be expecting a little bit too much out of this kid. Again, we'll see what happens. I could be totally wrong. For me, like, it's NHL playoff hockey, right? Like, it usually takes a minute, right? Like, I would venture to guess that he has never been hit the way that he is going to be hit in this series. So we will see how he handles it. Obviously, like I said, he could handle it very well and just completely prove me wrong here. Not even prove me wrong, because I'm not even saying that he won't handle it well. I'm just saying that we haven't yet seen how he will or won't handle it, right? So I do think some people out there in Montreal kind of putting too much, not pressure, but expectations on the kid for this series, his very first in the National Hockey League. For the Caps, I have seen different people naming different guys, different individual players, right, who they think can be X factors for the Caps in this series. Ryan Leonard is one. Pierre-Luc Dubois up the middle of the ice. Certainly Aliaksei Protas if he is healthy. Tom Wilson is always an X factor, right? But I've got to say, I am looking at it from a bit of a different perspective. And that different perspective is that I don't think that the X factor for the Caps should be any one individual player. To me, what I mean by that, I'll explain myself, okay? To me, the X factor for the Caps should be their size. It should be their strength. It should be their physicality. It should be their depth, right? Because those are the areas in which they really stand out over top of the Montreal Canadiens. So it's not any one individual player that makes you go whoa, the Caps are super favorites here, right? Although having the greatest goal scorer of all time on your roster certainly does not hurt either, no matter how much Patrick Laine doesn't care about it. But these are the things that make the Washington Capitals stand out as a hockey team, right? They're big, they're strong, they're physical, and they are super, super, super deep. So as long as they play to those strengths of theirs, and dictate the pace of play against the Canadiens, don't sit back, right? Dictate. If they do those things, play to their strengths, like I said, then I am super confident. Be up in their faces. That is what I want to see. Be up in their faces. Remind them how much bigger you are than them. Dictate the game, right? That is what I want to see from the Washington Capitals in this series. And if the Washington Capitals do those things with the way that they are built from top to bottom, then they are very, very, very difficult to beat. And not just for the Montreal Canadiens to beat, but for anyone to beat. That is the way that they are built, right? That is the way that they can play when they are at their best. And so, that is what I want to see in this series and hopefully moving forward into further series as well. All right, babes. I think that is probably going to be a good note to end off on for today. I am starting to lose my voice a little bit here. I don't know if you can tell. But yeah, it's exciting times, right? You get so amped up, you want to talk about it, and you could just go on forever. But yeah, I do think that is probably going to be a good note to end off on for today. As always, babes, thank you all so much for being here. So exciting here today to do our first postseason show of the 2024-2025 season. If you have not already done so, like I said, and if you do enjoy the show here, please go ahead and click on that subscribe button. We would love to have you along here with us for this ride. So don't be shy. We love to have you all here. Click on that subscribe button for us. Like I said, if you do enjoy the show, if you don't enjoy it, you don't need to click subscribe. But yeah, if you do enjoy the show, give it a click on that subscribe button and follow along. As we will have tons of content coming up throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs and into the offseason, which hopefully for our Washington Capitals will not come still for a very long time yet. So we'll see what happens. It all starts on Monday for the Caps. Like I said, Capital One Arena, 7 p.m. start time for you guys down there in the DMV area, 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. my time. I will be making sure that I can watch that one on time regardless. I do not want to record it. I don't want to have it on the PVR. I want to watch it live. So I will make sure that I do what I have to do to be able to watch that one live, 4 p.m. my time. But yeah, 7 p.m. for those of you down there in the DMV area. And babes, drop me your comments. Let me know what you think of this series. What do you think of the Montreal Canadiens as an opponent, as a matchup for the Caps? What do you think of the Caps' chances in the series? What do you think that they have to do to get the win in this series? What do you think that they have to avoid in order to get the win in this series as well? Love to hear your thoughts. As always, you guys always drop some really great comments, so let me know what you think. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for today, babes. We will have more after Monday's game. Of course, I will be, putting up that post-game reaction video on the YouTube channel. For those of you, if you are listening in audio only, the podcast is available, a video version of it on YouTube now as well, if you prefer that. And yeah, I am doing post-game reaction videos as well on the YouTube channel. So it is at Jenaya Talks Caps on YouTube. You can subscribe there as well if you feel so inclined. And yeah, we will have, like I said, a post-game reaction video up for that game on Monday, which hopefully will be a victory. Until next time, babes, like I said, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for listening. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, baby, let's go Caps.